one of the things I love about focus pulling, that you're telling the story, and nobody can tell you how you do it. The job of focus pulling is very intimidating. You know, like I tell guys, a light blows up, I don't know, $2,000, $3,000, you blow a shot, you're talking about $500,000, and they have to reshoot it.
Welcome back to another episode of the Rough Cut Club. I am your host, Joey Nicotra, here today with my co-host, Shane Wrightsammer, in the studio. And today was a banger, like an absolute heavy hitter. This guy has done movies like Men in Black, Equalizer, Pirates of the Caribbean, the TV series Orange is the New Black, Prison Break, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, like crazy, crazy rap sheet of movies that he's done, and is an absolute veteran.
And I love, he's very humble. He's not trying to name drop, but literally, like, as he's saying these movies, I'm like, oh my God, I love that movie.
Yeah. It's like his natural stories just happen to be name drop.
And he's like, and then there was Denzel, and we were doing this shot, and I'm like, Denzel Washington's like one of my all-time favorite actors. Like awesome.
Who's
episode.
a funny guy that it's George Clooney?
Yeah.
It's like, dang, that's crazy.
And he's got stories for all. It's just like, man, this guy, one of the swaggiest dressed, drip was on point.
He definitely walks in, he'll make you feel insecure because you're like, man, I really should start dressing better.
I know. It's like, I wore this last episode too, I think. So I got to step up the game. And his hats, man.
Yeah,
this guy has got
custom hat maker.
Man, so many talents. You know what I love about this episode though?
Yeah.
It made me very nostalgic and missed first ACing.
Yeah.
He was talking about these little nuances that focus pullers and first ACs and just the relationship aspect.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, man, I missed that. Like, I want to go pull out my tape measure after this and just hold it for a bit.
Man, it's crazy. There was like probably 4 or 5 moments in this episode where I've been like, I have never thought about that before. Like literally, and that's going to impact me for years to come as a DP. Especially with my relationship with a first AC. Some of the things he was talking about like being right there on the camera and pulling focus. I've pulled focus for years with ACs just on a separate monitor, like away. And I was like, man, I never thought about the impact that things like just proximity to the DP and the AC really have. And it's like, yeah, you think about it, but he really breaks it down into practical ways that even if you're not an AC, that you can grow and have takeaways from this that will impact your film career.
100%. I think anybody that is in camera department, this episode is one of the most valuable episodes we have filmed to date.
Yeah. Wow, that was a big, bold statement, and I actually think I stand behind it.
Let's roll the tape.
Let's get it. Willie Estrada, man, welcome to the show, brother. How you doing?
Thank you very much. I'm doing good.
Dude,
thank you for having me.
Super stoked to have you on the show, man. For those that don't know, me and Willie go back probably 3-4 months almost at this point now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Willie actually reached out to me and he got me on the show. He got me on a documentary that he's been working on where he's directing. But Willie is actually a veteran first AC, and so super stoked to dive into your story and your career today, brother. First, kick this off. Tell me a little bit about how you got into the business and what you're doing today, bro.
Okay, so trying to be concise and short. My dad went to Emory University, and in the early 70s. I was born in Puerto Rico. And my dad was doing his postgraduate at Emory in Atlanta. And one of his many jobs while he was going to school, he worked at a television station as a stage camera guy. And I was always infatuated about the camera, the big lens in the studio, on the pedestal and all that kind of stuff. And I would tell my dad, Dad, I want to go to the studio with you because he worked weekends. He worked Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. So my reward during the week, if I do all my homeworks, my chores, is everything, on Saturday, I will go and I'll sit down next to him and he'll operate the camera for 6-7 hours. I'll be there with him the whole time. And then I started loving cameras, and from that point on, I said I want to do movies.
That's sick.
So when you're a kid and you go to school, they ask you what do you want to do. Everybody was like, "Oh, I want to be a fireman. I want to be a doctor, engineer." I said, "I want to work in movies."
I love that.
So I never changed. So fast forward, went to school, small college in Tennessee, studied communications. From there, I was there only 2 years. I was vibing with the school. I went to Florida. I went to this really small college called Bowder College. Uh, got my undergraduate in communication and broadcasting. Started working in radio and television like for a year, not jiving with that.
Yeah.
And then I told my dad, "Hey, Dad, I want to go back to school." And then I found out that New York University had a continuing education program and in cinematography. So I said, "Dad, I want to go there." And then I went there for a year and got my certificate in cinematography. And in being in New York, I started meeting people,
Yeah.
and you start networking. I went to Florida because at that time my parents are still in Florida. When I finished, I started working around town, and they moved back to Puerto Rico. I was 22 years old. I went back to Puerto Rico and got a job in a production company called Zaga Films. And that was a turning point in my life because the owner of the company not only was he was owner, producer, director of photography, director. So he and I clicked, and he just took me under his wing, and I just started learning. And right off the bat, 22 years old, he had a connection with Panavision. So there was a Panavision package at his rental house, and I just dove into Panavision. And
awesome.
like back then it was the G, the G body, the gold body, and all these lenses. I was exposed to what was anamorphic at a very young age in my career, and then from there, my career just blossomed. And I can go into details later, but that's how I got into the business,
Man,
and
that's-
to be a camera assistant.
Yeah.
Because back then, in order in Puerto Rico, in order for you to start in camera, you needed to do video assist.
Right.
So when I got hired to do video assist, without knowing the first assistant, and then you never had a second assistant. The first assistant would do everything
that,
and grab a grip, hit sticks. The grips will help them.
Right.
So I told him, "Hey man, if you ever need help, because when they say action is when I hit record on the video assist, I don't have to." And it was very, very rudimentary. It was like this big old TV that you have, remember your grandparents, it looks like a piece of furniture and it has the tube TV there, right? So that's what we had, and a VHS.
Wow.
So he said, "Well, you want to learn how to load film?" I said, "Yes." So I started practicing. I learned how to load film. And then now when I was working, I had my tent on top of the TV. So I would load film for him. That was one less thing that he had to do. I would load the film, give it to him in the magazines, and then the grip will hit the sticks. So slowly, that's how I started getting into camera and learning. And then I was just asking questions. And I remember I was getting paid $30 a day. And I remember my dad saying, "We pay for all this education. You're getting paid $30 a day." And I'm going, "Dad, it's okay. It's okay." I remember years later, when I needed to do some stuff with my tax returns, and nonchalantly I said, "Hey, yeah, this is my W-2s." And when he looked at it, he goes, "Oh my God, is that what you make a year?" And I go, "Remember when you were telling me, $30 a day? It was a good investment."
Education finally paid off.
Yeah.
It's funny, Willie. I think parents still say that to their kids these days, right? When you're first coming up in the industry, and like Joey and I, laugh about it now. I think Joey joined Cinema Story in 2017.
Yeah.
And when I first got him, he told me this story and it always makes me smile, but he's like, yeah, I met you at Starbucks. You were looking to hire, some more videographers. And I was that producer, director, DP, and after the meeting at Starbucks and I left, I was like, this dude's going to pay me $20 an hour. And I'm like, me on the other side of the table, I'm like, man, I hope he's okay with $20 an hour. That's all I got.
Yeah.
Dude, my whole life, I like all through college, I made $10 an hour.
Yeah.
And just doing, you know what I mean, stuff back then. And for me, I go to college and I doubled up on that like, real fast.
No. And now you look at Joey's W-2 and I'm like,
But the interesting thing when you when you're involved, when you grow up or get involved in this industry and you're passionate about it, money is comes as a blessing. I've encountered people that they're in it for the money and they're miserable.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I encounter people like me that we're about the process, filmmaking, creating something as a community and seeing the end result, on the screen. And that gives me more satisfaction than just saying, like I have people that I have to hire, and the first thing they ask me how much it pays.
Right.
And that really turns me off.
Mm-hmm.
When I get that, then I keep interviewing people. I stay away from those people because I know they're not passionate. They're thinking about, obviously money is important, but I need somebody that I know that person, I need you to stay 34 minutes because we have 30 or 44 minutes because we have to clean the cameras, blah, blah, blah. It's not going to be on the time card. They start, oh man, So those kind of people, when I do the hiring, I stay away from when I'm interviewing them.
That's so true. Man. I love when you tell somebody about a project or a gig and they're like, okay, well, what's the story about? Or what's the responsibility? What am I going to be doing? I love that instead of the first thing. Well, what's the rate? And it's so true, man. And so, which I get it. A lot of these freelancers is important, but seeing that passion first,
right,
and then we get to the price point, and that always is like a check in the box of like you're in it for the passion and the art, and you're going to be a good team player beyond the first thing being the qualifier of if the first qualifier is the rate, it's not a good fit.
Well, and what's funny too is like I have conversations with my wife all the time where I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go like shoot today, and she's like, well, what's it pay or whatever, and I'm like, well, today's shoot is free. I'm donating my time to this shoot because I want to.
Right.
And she would never go to her like W-2 job to just donate time, and it's a weird thing for a lot of people, but in the industry, like the passion that you have. In my mind, I've always said passion is the secret ingredient to creating your best work. Because if you have those passionate days, those are the days that you get to experiment and you get to push boundaries, and that a lot of times will lead to money as a byproduct down the road. And I was literally just telling him, I was like, we did a shoot that was a spec project, and there was no money involved in it. And from that, somebody saw it. I got a job, and it was a 13-day job.
Yep.
And I met somebody on that set, Carlos, who introduced me to you. And we've done, 7 or 8 days together?
Yeah.
And so I was just telling him in the last less than 6 months or so, I've gotten 22 days off of one day that was just a passion project.
There you go. Not only that, on the cinematography side, when you do these passion projects that you're not getting paid, that's the time for you as a cinematographer to test, to do things that you can't do when you're getting paid because they're asking for a specific thing, lighting wise, camera movement, and all. But when you're doing a passion project, then you come in because they need you, and you have the liberty to explore and experiment, mixing light, camera movements, and you go, oh, great, I can do this. I know this is going to work, and then you take it to your next job, and it's something that you can you keep improving. And that's what, going about what you're talking, that's what I tell young guys when I hire them. I said, look, don't look what's in front of you. Look at what this is going to bring you.
Yeah.
that's the issue. Like, we want instant gratification and everything. I want to know how much I'm going to get paid. I want to know my rate. But then from my end, I go, okay, I just hire you, but I won't hire you again.
Right.
And if you call me, hey, what do you think of Joey? I don't know, man. You know, I'll give you another guy's name.
Yeah.
And then I won't, because I don't want to recommend you, because I don't want you to make me look bad.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were talking. I think we were talking maybe on the podcast, but we were like, "What's your favorite project that we've done?" And some of our favorite projects where I've directed and he's DP'd has been our free passion projects, because what you're saying, like, we 100% agree. The freedom. I mean, there's no ad agency, there's no client.
Right.
We get to decide and create, and then we're always, when we do spec shoots, we still do spec shoots. In fact, we have one really coming up just around the corner in like 3 weeks that we're super excited about, where we get to explore and do stuff on a LED wall. We've already shot, the other spec shoot he was talking about was LED wall, and we're about to do it again because we're like, look at all the adventure and growth and art that we've got to do. And so it's so true. Like, those passion projects seem to open up the most doors.
Right.
When you do something for free, it's almost, or if you're not worried about the rate, even if it's super reduced, it's like, okay, you can take the money equation out of it.
Right.
And then it's just the art.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's really, really fun to see.
When you were coming up the ladder, you met the guy that in Puerto Rico introduced you to Panavision and everything. Did you ever want to become a DP, cinematographer, cam op, or did you fall in love with the assistant camera side of things? Because you've now been doing the first AC work for a long time.
Yeah.
Did you fall in love with that back then and say, I never really want to do it? Or have you kind of wanted to do some of that stuff in your career?
So basically, yes. The answer to that is yes. I wanted to be a first assistant cameraman. But at the same time, I was never interested in being a cinematographer. I know the craft well, but I was never interested because I'm always been a person that can connect people. So I always was drawn to the producing side, finding the project, finding the people, and doing that. What happened with camera assistant that I love is just I was getting from one job to the next job to the next job to the next job. And just when I started in the business back then, there were 4 things that you could do. There was the commercial industry, which was one crew. There was the music video industry. There was another crew. There was the network television, which was another crew. And then there was the feature, which is another crew. So I was lucky enough in Puerto Rico, I started doing commercials. I would get up at, on Monday at 7 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm sorry, and then work on commercials the whole week, because this company was like producing commercials every week. So I would go from one job to another job. I did that from like 1989 to 1993, like nonstop. And I was exposed to every single camera system, lenses, because depending on the complexity of the commercial, how they want to do it, helicopters, being in Puerto Rico, helicopters, underwater photography, boat. So I got exposed without even knowing to all this knowledge before going to LA and starting my career as a camera assistant. So the director, my mentor, he in 1993 directed and produced a movie called The Death of Garcia Lorca. And this movie happened in Spain, LA, and Puerto Rico. So he took off for Spain. The main studios were going to be in Spain. He took off for Spain, and he went by himself. And all of us from the stage that were working with him, we're going, well, damn, he's going over there. He didn't take any of us. That kind of sucks, right? So he's going to work with Spanish crew, whatever. So we had to do a commercial with the company, with another director. We went to Portugal, and we did a commercial there. And then I had this idea. I said, okay, once we finish the commercial, I'm just going to go to Spain. So I called his secretary in Puerto Rico, said, hey, her name was Virginia. Virginia, can you give me the address where Marcos is? So she gave me the address. I showed up in Spain. I go to, I tell, I remember like today, I tell the receptionist, will you please tell Marcos Surinaga that his son is here? Um, he's got two sons. So he's kind of rattled. One of my sons is here. So when he comes outside, he sees me and he starts laughing. So we go inside and he goes, what are you doing here? I go, I want a job. I was sitting when I was sitting in the reception, I'll see all these people. I see like British crew walking because it was pre-production, Spanish, American. So I go, I want a job. He goes, what do you mean you want a job? I said, Marcos, I've seen all these like British, Spanish, American people here. There's no other Puerto Rican. It's just you. And I've been working for you for 4 years. So he started laughing. He goes,
Yeah.
okay, hold on. He sends me to the production manager and he goes, hey, find a job for this guy. And I go, no, not find a job. I want to work in the camera department. So they got me a job as a second.
That
So-
is amazing.
So I ended up doing, and because that, we ended, we shot in Spain, we shot in LA, in Puerto Rico, and in LA. When I went with him, I got connected with these crews that they were doing all the big movies in LA. Like,
Yeah.
and from that movie, I worked on Selena, I worked on Speed 2, and I just started my career with, working with these like big name like cinematographers, camera assistants, and I just loved it. I just said, you know what, this is what I'm going to do. And some of my friends, over the years moved up to DP, and they have great careers. Some of them still do the same thing we do, you know. And I have much love for this guy. His name is Trevor Loomis. He works a lot with right now with he's a still camera assistant. He works a lot with Martin Scorsese. And he does all the big movies in LA. So we just, you just find a niche where you want to be, and you be the best at it. So my transition when I when I do my retirement is to producing, and that's how
Yeah.
we got connected.
Right. Man, that's awesome, dude. What a story. I love we've heard a handful of just like hungry go-getter stories like on the podcast, and each time I'm like, man, that is just such a testament of like what it takes to make it in the industry and what
Yeah.
you have to do.
Yeah, and it's what I tell young people these days. You got to be hungry. Things are not, they're not gonna come to you. You can't be entitled and thinking, oh, okay, whatever. You got to be responsible. You got to be hungry. Work for free. Network. Do this, do that. Find in the industry what you want to do. Whether it's camera, where you want to be a director, production designer, custom designer. You want to stick with lighting. Um, and just do the best that you can do. And yes, we need money, but don't make money priority.
Yeah.
Make the craft, the art, the priority in your life, and that by the result, that's gonna bring money.
Yes.
Yeah.
Man, we were talking on set the other day, and you got another movie that I won't name right now, but that you're in prep for. Do you have a process that you feel like you systematically follow to prep and prepare for a movie when it comes onto your desk?
On my end, on the technical side, is once the DP and I start a conversation, and we'll start talking about, okay, what do we want to do? Basically, we'll start like, what ratio are we shooting? Is it 2.40, 2.39, 16:9? And then once we figure that out, then we go from the next step. Okay, do we want to shoot this anamorphic or do we want to shoot this spherical? And then at that point, that's a question between the cinematographer and the director. Do we want to have depth of field with sphericals, or do we want to have with anamorphics? Have always find the focus where it needs to be. and then make it more noticeable when you're watching it. And then from there we go to cameras. You know, what cameras are we going to shoot? You know, now with all the streaming services, you have to shoot above 4K because that's how they want their product. You know, and then from that point, once we get lenses and bodies, then we start shooting tests. So I'll go to a prep house, whether it's Keslo or Panavision or Ari, and then I'll meet with the people there. This is what I need, and usually, in my case, I like having a lot of time. So if on a movie now, back in the day, you'll get a month of prep. On a movie now, you'll probably, if you're lucky, you get 5 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm talking a big movie, you know.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is I'll just carve out my own time and I'll go to LA a month earlier and I'll work on my own time because I want to make sure all those lenses are like, you know, if it says 6 feet, it's gonna focus at 6 feet, at 8 feet, at 2 feet. So I test them all. I put them on a projector and I look at the flaws of the lens. This lens, so if I have 325s or 327s, I look at the best lens on a projector to make sure like the flares, you know, where the focus falls off. And that way I know once I'm shooting, you know, and I'm behind the knob, I know I tell the operator, okay, just be careful. If you frame, let's say the nose or the face too much to the left, there's a fall off in focus. So stay away from that. Just, you know, pan a little bit to your right so we can have that whole situation. It's also important, you know, I don't know if you guys have shot anamorphic.
I have, yeah.
Yeah. So, and you know, with the anamorphic lens, there's a huge fall off. You know, the center is sharp and it slowly starts falling off, top and bottom. So, if I'm working with a young operator, I have to make sure he knows, hey, you got to give it a little bit more headroom. You have to like find a happy medium so the shot is sharp, because otherwise, doesn't matter where I am. If you have the eyes, for example, on the fall off, it's never going to be sharp. And then you hear the director yelling, "That's not sharp. That's not sharp." Yes, it's not sharp because the lens was made that way.
Right.
You know. Also, when it comes with anamorphics, also with T-stops, I know everybody likes to have, you know, very little depth of field, but the reality is that lenses, they have a sweet spot.
They do.
You know,
you go too low and you're too wide open, the lens starts to break down a little bit.
It looks mushy and doesn't 100%. Look good. But I did this movie, The Equalizer, again. Denzel Washington with Antoine Fuqua.
So good.
And we're doing this in this Equalizer 2. We're doing this scene, and it's a scene where there's, at the beginning of the movie, the kid, there's this little girl that gets kidnapped by the dad, who's Turkish. The mom is American. The movie opens, Mikhail, the character of Denzel, in a train going to Turkey, trying to retrieve this girl from the hands of the Turkish guy. The guy happens to be like a mobster in Turkey or whatever. The scene happens, blah, blah, blah. We move on to Boston, where he returns the little girl to the mom. So it's this big office space, and we're doing this really fast Steadicam shot. And then the Steadicam is following the girl running to the mom. And once we get to the mom, it's like a 360, and it's anamorphic. So also with anamorphic, you have also the close focus usually is like 3 feet 2.9 on these lenses. So you can't really get close because not only is anamorphic, but if you go past minimum focus, you'll
never get the shot in focus.
You never get the shot in focus.
As far as it can go.
Exactly. So I tell my operator about accountability in this business. You always, especially camera assistants with focus and everything, you got to be upfront.
Right.
If you made a mistake, you know, tell your DP, hey, that wasn't good. Can we do it again?
Right.
Because, you know, you're being accountable for your mistake. Not be quiet and then you go to post, and then
Yep.
the whole shot is bad, and you can't use it.
What's crazy too is even as a DP, when you're watching the monitor, I feel like I'm pretty cognizant about trying to watch for the focus and making sure the shot is sharp, but especially the director. And even sometimes if I'm roped into the composition and the lighting and everything, it's really easy for even the DP and the director to miss a moment when the shot goes soft. And so I think I love when my AC comes to me and is like, hey, bro, there was a moment in there, it slipped a little bit, like it went to the nose, you know what I mean, whatever. And because it's easy to miss it, even when we're looking at the monitor, because we're looking for 17 different things.
Right.
So we were on a set on a feature film, and I won't say the DP's name, but you know, Joe and I have done some features, and so we do a lot of commercial adverts and stuff. But this DP said, and I wanted to know because you're the veteran, you've done so many films. This DP said, everybody in Hollywood shoots T4 and up. Nobody goes below that. Because we want all the details and all the. So is that true? I don't know. Like
That's not true.
Okay, we didn't think. He and I both looked at each other and we're like, "Is that?
That's not true. It's the other way around that we were talking.
Love it.
Everybody wants to shoot shallow.
Yeah, yeah.
But let me. Okay, there's the old school cinematographers. Yes, they like shooting 2.8, 2.84 and up because the quality of the lens. They know where that sweet spot of those lenses are. The young cinematographers, a lot of them like to shoot like wide open.
Mm-hmm.
And I work, one of the DPs that I work with, he comes from the world of really well known from music videos. He loves to shoot everything wide open. I go, dude, we don't need to shoot wide open an insert of a cup. Where do you want to focus? Where at the front or the back? It's so tight. The insert shot's gonna last a second. Just give it. Let's just get the whole cup sharp. But no, he's like. So I've learned. You have to learn how to like manage. But yeah, it's not true.
Going back to the T4 thing, I feel like to your point, if you look at older movies, they were a lot less shallow, but most of them were shot on film, where it was like if you're off a little bit, you don't know.
You don't know it.
And it's a safety thing, one.
Yeah.
But also like a lot of movies stylistically, they wanted to show off the art department stuff all the work that would go into a movie.
Right.
They want to showcase it because it looks beautiful.
Yep.
And going shallow was a way to hide things.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? If you had to.
Right.
Whereas nowadays, you know what I mean? It's different because we're on digital. Yeah. We can see if that focus is. And so I just think it's changed a little bit.
Yeah, it's changed, and it's just it's trends.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like they cinematographer here's a podcast, and here's one of the let's say Hoyta, giving a podcast about how he lights, and then he likes shooting wide open, and that guy will go, oh, okay, I want to do the same thing.
Yeah.
But not thinking of the repercussions. Just don't do it because you want to do it. There's reasons if you want to shoot wide open to shoot wide open.
Right.
But just don't do it because it's a trend.
Right.
Find a happy medium, to where to do it. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What the story's telling, because you as a focus puller, you're also telling a story because you're bringing that sharpness on the scene, so the person that's watching is focused on that.
Right.
So once I rack focus and I go back to you, then okay, I'm from here. Okay, I'm not looking at Joey now. I'm looking at you now. So there's a storytelling. That was also one of the things I love about focus pulling, that you're telling a story. And nobody can tell you how you do it.
Yeah.
If you're operating, the director can go, oh yeah, you got to move 2 inches, to the left, 2 inches. Okay, fine. But when you're pulling focus, they can't really tell you, they can tell you take a little longer, but they don't know how to do it because the job of focus pulling is very intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
Like I tell guys, a light blows up, I don't know, $2,000, $3,000, you blow a shot, which is and you're talking about $500,000, and they have to reshoot it,
Right.
And and your potential to be fired from the job,
Right.
because you can't get the shots.
Yeah. How do you feel like the implementation of autofocus moving into cinema cameras is going to impact first ACs and your career moving forward?
Right now we have this system called the Preston Light Ranger. I don't know if you guys have heard of it.
Yeah, the fizz
Yeah. Well, the fizz is one thing. The fizz is focus, iris,
and zoom.
and zoom, which is the knob.
Right.
That's been a standard in the industry for many, many, many years. But then, let's say maybe 10 years ago, Preston invented the Light Ranger.
Is that the like the cine tape, like
It's a cine. It's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah, yeah.
cine tape, and this thing,
the LiDAR thing or
it
whatever?
sends a laser. It's sent to the subject, and it bounces back, and it tells you the distance. But you can actually do autofocus, but it's very finicky, and you need to know how to do it. There's some shots that yes, I've used it.
Yeah.
There's some shots that are wide open. You have a person running, from 25 feet
Right.
to 4 feet.
Not even gonna try. and they want it at 1-2.
And you're shooting wide open, bro. There's no way you can get that shot.
No.
I mean, when I was younger,
Yeah.
I was bold and I could do it. But like everything, as you get older, your reflex are get slower. Blah blah blah. This and that. It's like you're sending a signal from your head to your hand to your eyes, and by the time all that stuff happens, a person's already standing there.
Yeah.
So there's shots that yes, it's a great tool to have, because you don't want to be that guy on set. Oh, we got to do it again because it's soft, right? So yeah, it's great.
What's the? I mean, you probably have tons, but what's the hardest pull that you've had to do manually?
Remember the show Prison Break? Yeah, we were like doing, and this was film again. We were on a 400 millimeter, and we had to bring like one of the brothers, like, again, that type of shot. Like he's running like from 50 feet all the way in to like 3 feet, big close up. He looks everywhere, and he leaves that, and then he leaves camera right, and the sun is going down, and it's like the last shot of the day. And I go, okay, it's time to get ready. So what we do is I'll have my second assistant. We'll take like, let's say 10 marks. I know I don't need. I know I can get it on my own from say 50 feet to 20 feet. That from 20 feet I put marks like every 5 feet. So I put like, let's say if it's 8 marks from 20 to 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I know that 1 is 20, 2 is 17, 3 is 15, 4 is 12, and so on. So I'll have my assistant be on a spot, and he will like, and action, and I'll hear on the radio, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. Boom. We did it twice. And not because of me.
Dang.
That is amazing.
That's amazing. I DP'd for a while, corporate stuff, and then I did some first AC work, and so I love hearing these stories. And I actually had a tape measure, so I was one of maybe the younger guys. I'm 40 now, so I'm not that young, but I learned under James Burgess, and he was kind of old school DP, and so he would talk about marks and all that, and I'd always be adding another thing to my tool belt. I'd be like, oh, I need to get a tape measure. Yeah, that will help me with the marks. And so then I switched to the digital,
to the Hilti,
the laser.
Yeah, the laser.
And so that I felt he thought that was pretty cool. I came to set and I was like, I don't need the tape. I'll just do this.
Yeah.
And then you have your assistant go and stand in the mark. But he was one of those guys too that hardest pull I had to do, nothing like that. That's insane. But it was like he put me on an 85. He shot like at 1.8 or just wide open, whatever it was, and it was in a dark room. The actor walking out of the shadows into the light, back into the shadows, and I got my marks, did all that. I think I had to do like 5, 6, 10. Every time everybody's looking at you and they're like, You need another one? I'm like, yeah. Sorry.
This is the other thing why I still pull soft tape to the actors. This is because you as a focus puller, you also want to have a relationship with the actor.
Mm.
You know, you pull focus, and the actor will say, "Hey, what's up?" You know, they'll talk to you, blah blah blah. So you create a relationship.
It's good.
You create a relationship. The actor is going to help you.
Mm-hmm.
So I will go like if there's a really hard shot, I will go to the actor and say, you know, we're doing this shot, blah blah blah. I need you to, if it's possible, try to hit that mark.
Mm.
And they'll go, no problem, Willie, we'll hit the mark. You know, so you create a relationship with that person, and it's a working relationship, and they respect you, right?
Yeah.
When you're in another room and
Yep.
you don't create those relationships, you know, as the lead camera assistant, the camera assistant, where you're always dealing with the actors, you know, I build a relationship with the director. Obviously, the DP is already
Mm-hmm.
on my side, right? I build a relationship with the dolly grip
Mm-hmm.
because he's the one moving the dolly, and he can make or break my shot.
Right.
I build a relationship with the actors, right? So that way, I have control of the set, and I know, when I really need help, these are the guys that are gonna help me.
That's so good.
Yeah.
I love just the difference of. I mean, just think about what that laser did. It just created separation because they don't know.
Yes.
I'm like, now you walk out there with the tape, and you're.
Yes.
They also see that, and there's interaction, and they
Yes.
go, "Oh, okay, I know how important this is,
Yes.
dude. That's so brilliant." I'm throwing the late. Well, I haven't AC in a while.
No,
but I'm
I
gonna throw
know,
the laser
but
away.
I
God.
I do have the laser too, but I'll
Yeah.
use the laser when I have to do long measurements,
Yeah,
right? But
yeah.
when I'm in an intimate setting with the actor, where I'm between 20 feet, the other thing is you're there, so they get used to you being there.
Right.
You know, you stay away from the eye line, but actors are creatures of like they get used to the people that are on set.
Mm-hmm.
They get used to the operator, to the first assistant, to the director, to the DP, maybe the prop master, because you have to be there
Mhm.
talking to them the whole
Right.
time. So once they see you there, they get comfortable,
Mm.
right? Because actors have a bunch of insecurities, right?
Mhm.
And they just want to have the people around them, besides their crew, right? The makeup, hair, and custom. They want to be like in a setting where they feel safe, they can do their craft. And if you're there the whole time and you create a relationship with them, this is what I tell people. If you're going to work for an actor for the first time, don't talk to them. Let them talk to you. Once they open the door and they talk to you, then you can talk to them. Don't be, yo, what you doing? How you doing? Hey, good morning, blah, blah, blah. When they say good morning, you say good morning. Once you create that relationship with that person, then it's easier, right?
Mm.
Because they get uncomfortable, They
Yeah.
get super uncomfortable.
Especially ones that have like a fame like aura.
When
and
they're
stuff around-
famous,
yeah.
yeah. They you have to really be careful.
Right.
Because I've been in situations that I've seen that the actor goes, I don't want that guy on set.
Yeah.
Mm.
And you go, oh, shit.
Yeah. It's got real fast.
Yeah.
Man, that's awesome.
So you have to be like, and it's like everything. You have to read the room. There's people that can't read the room.
Right.
You have to read the room.
Right.
And you have to know when to speak and when you're next to the camera. For example, another example, because I've worked so much with Antoine. Antoine doesn't like people talking to their actors when they're on set.
Mm.
It's the relationship that he has with the actor, unless you're like essential to the scene, which is the operator, the first assistant, the prop master, those guys that have to talk to the actors, right?
Yeah.
Outside of that, you just say minimum. Unless you're spoken to, you speak. You don't just strike conversations because that throws the actor off of his game without you even knowing. And those directing that directing information that he wanted to get from the actor now is completely off because you distracted the guy.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Man, that's good. That's something I hadn't even really thought about though, but just like how easy it is to distract performance with just niceties and whatnot. That's interesting.
Well, because they're trying to get in the zone.
Yeah.
The director's trying to help them get into that
Right.
mentality. I've been on set, even a commercial project, and just realizing like, all right, stop talking to the actors, because we got, and people are trying to be, oh, you want a water, you want a chair, you want to sit down. I need the actor and me to lock in
Right.
and focus, and really, I'm trying to help them get into the emotional
Right.
environment
Right.
to do a scene, and then you've got people that are essential, like Joey saying, hey, I need the actor to be actually over here for the the marks. So there's all this information going on, but when you have all that other noise, it's so true.
Yeah.
One other thing I love that you said, and now it just made me miss first day seeing is, well, again, when I was with James, I was always on camera with him pulling, and it's that relationship aspect that I love about film. It's that collaboration. So like every shot, I'm like literally, I'd always make sure I'm chewing gum, get a mint in my breath. But I'm right next to him, and so we had dialogue about every shot. Like, oh, you got that. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, I would have, talking about the scene. Like, I would have done that differently. Okay,
Right.
and it is something that you totally lose because then, we'd have to be like wireless when we're doing a gimbal shot or something like that. But there's something about just the distance too.
Yeah.
Even going back to that tape measure, that distance creates kind of a little less collaboration. And so when you have that proximity
Right.
as your camera team, it feels more of like a collaborative. Like you're right, you lean on each other, and there was those times where you're like, man, I'm just not. Well, here, let me go up and I hated that, but he's like, let me go up a stop, like let me close down a little bit so you can hit the mark, Shane.
No, absolutely. It's all
so true.
it's all. At the end of the day, you want to bring a good shot to the director to post, right? And everybody depends on each other, right? So I depend on in my case, I depend on the actor, the operator, and if I'm on a dolly or in a crane, the crane or dolly operator. If we're not jiving, the shot is not gonna work.
Yeah.
Because it's gonna be a lot of bickering, a lot of fighting, and it's happened. That we have to come. We have to just all sit down and say, yo, we have to like forget our egos. We need to do this shot. Sometimes you get dolly groups that all they do is talk. I don't like people talking around the camera. I just don't like it. It just gets me in a bad mood, and I want to get there and I want to focus on my shot, for lack of a better word. And then always listening to the director of photography, just listening. A lot of people, they're there and they're not listening, so you're always a step behind. I already know, like on the first day, that if the director likes a 27, I know before we do a shot or blocking, I already have the 27 on the director's finder. Okay, and it's already there.
Right.
There's those little things, that you think they're insignificant, but then the director of photography go, okay, this guy is listening. This guy knows what's up,
Yeah.
Instead of like the DP turn around, hey, can I get the 27? And now you have to go to the car, pull the lens, blah, blah, blah.
It's the proactivity, man.
Yes.
Like I tell all my guys, like the more proactive that you can be, and the more that you can read my mind before I have to ask you for something, you're taking stuff off my plate. And I'm already thinking about 50 things. I'm trying to work with the directors, all these things. If I don't have to ask you for something and it's already done, I'm like, gosh, man,
Because
it makes a world of difference.
It's patterns.
Yeah.
It's patterns. You already have, as a DP, do your pre-production with the director. You guys already have a plan. So you just have to read the pattern. What do they do? Okay. You know that he loves the 27. Have the 27 always ready. Or nowadays, we do it with the iPad. Like when I did the last movie, Fly Me to the Moon, the director's finder was an iPad.
Yeah, the Teradek Serve Pro or whatever.
Well, no, just a regular iPad with that app that has all the lenses.
Yeah. Oh, got it.
So they would get the iPad. So I already had like my assistant. Okay, have the iPad on hand, and then we'll give the iPad to the DP. Who will look. He hand it to the director. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. Boom. And it just makes everything go. Fluid. And you as the camera department, they never want to wait on you.
Yeah.
They never want to wait on you.
Yeah.
So you're always moving. Okay, we know the shot is here. Where are you going to put the carts for all the equipment? Behind you.
Right.
You start moving. Don't wait till I have to tell you on the radio, yo, we got to move those carts in the shot. Come on.
Yeah.
You knew that we saw that we're looking this way.
Right.
So by that time, you're already moving carts behind camera.
Yeah.
It's those little things that make the process go faster.
Yeah.
And in my case, you know, I see that everybody's like on the same page.
Yeah, man, that's good. We got a couple little bits that we like to do before we wrap out. Last question before we move into those though. For other people on the other side of this podcast listening in, they're interested in the first AC line of work. They're doing it to either, you know, move up to doing DP work or they love it or, you know, whatever. Do you have any tangible advice that you can leave to somebody who is stepping into that
Yes.
career phase for the first time?
Okay, so going back to when I started, when I started, you needed to go through every position before becoming DP. You were like a loader, a second assistant, a first assistant, and then it's an operator. And from operating, usually, you know, you will decide you want to stay operating or move up to becoming a director of photography. And what by doing that, you will learn everybody else's job because you did it. So, for example, if there's a shot you as a DP, and you know you want to shoot it at 2, right? Because the director's asking you for a lot of like shallow depth of field. So you know that your AC is going to have a hard shot.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you have to have a little empathy for the guy and help him out, you know. And if you know at 2 he didn't get the shot. Well, give him another half a stop. Give
Right.
give him a little more. Don't like bring him down because he couldn't get the shot. Because you did the if you were an assistant before being an DP, you know how hard that shot is.
Yeah.
But nowadays, you know, you got these, and God bless them, you know, DPs that they never went through the camera department.
Right.
They came through electric, lighting, whatever, and then they put these assistants in. I mean, you got to be good, but there's shots that you know you need help, you know,
Yep.
and don't bring them down, you know, just roll your eyes as I'll bring somebody else. Just give them a little stop. It's not gonna hurt, you know. It's not gonna hurt. So what I would tell young people now, you know, that want to get into business, now there's so many opportunities to be a camera assistant. Back then, like I said, when we were talking earlier, you know, there was 4 ways to get into the camera. You know, either you were doing music videos, you're doing commercials, you were doing network television, or you're doing features. Nowadays, you know, you can go to Best Buy, buy a camera, even on your phone, you start shooting, you know, and call yourself a DP. But you don't know what it takes to get there, right? So I would tell like young people, like if you want to be a camera assistant, you want to be a cameraman, you know, that's your main goal, you know, reach out to a production company, you know, hey, can I come in, be an intern, watch you, you know, see what you do, and show that you're hungry because people are watching and they go, okay, this kid, you know, has a future. I like his vibe. I want to have him around me. And then you don't know next commercial. Hey, you want to come? You know, help me moving cases. You know, doing this. The important thing I tell people is get in. Once you get in, whether it's camera, whether it's lighting, whatever position, you know, you get in and do the best you can do, and be hungry about it. Don't think about the money, like we started the podcast. Think about the big picture, where this is going to take you.
Man, I love that so much. We're gonna move into our next segment, and it's called Pop a Question. And basically, we're gonna give you 60 seconds. We're gonna give you a random bucket of questions. You're gonna read the question out loud, and you're gonna see how many you can answer in 60 seconds. So it's a speed round.
Ooh.
Here, Shane, will you grab that?
Me with my English as a second language, like my wife says.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we're gonna give you 60 seconds, and these are quick, like 1 to like less than a sentence answers. And we're gonna put 60 seconds on the clock for you, bro.
All right. We got 60 seconds. I'm going to start it now.
Movie show you reference the most? Shawshank Redemption.
Nice.
That's a great answer.
Yeah.
What's your favorite movie quote? King Kong has nothing on me. What's your go-to camera? Panavision Millennium or Arri 35?
Love it. Love it.
Favorite cult classic movie? Shawshank Redemption.
Yes, sir.
Who's your biggest inspiration in the film industry? My mentor, Marco Surinaga.
Love it.
Funniest actor of all time? George Clooney.
There you go.
Who would you think in a fight? John Wick and Neo. Who would win in a fight? John Wick or Neo in The Matrix? John Wick.
John
Time's
Wick.
out.
Let's
Nice.
go, bro. That
Man,
was
you got
great.
through it, bro. That was
Yeah,
good.
bro.
Yeah.
Dude.
That's awesome.
I said George Clooney because I did this movie with him. It was not him being funny in front of the camera. It's just being him being funny.
That's
you know?
awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. I love when actors actually are just good, fun, sociable people in real life too.
Yeah,
man.
he's
That's
a good
awesome.
dude. Yeah. There's like people usually ask me that question. Who are the nicest actors you work with? And I always go Johnny Depp, George Clooney, Will Smith, Channing Tatum. Yeah, those guys.
That's
Yeah,
awesome, man.
that's
That's
awesome.
a good group.
Yeah.
Well, bro, we got 3 questions we like to ask every guest before we wrap you out of here. And so my first question is, if you could go back in time in your career,
Mhm.
what is one thing that you would have done differently?
It's funny. I would have gone to cosmetology school, learn how to cut hair, and be a male hairdresser.
That is
Because those
hilarious.
dudes don't do anything. They get up and with all due respect, for example, if it's Denzel and he has his bald head, all you have to do in the morning every 2 days, make sure his head is bald. You give him a massage, and then you walk to set, and you just there all day looking at
That
him,
is
right?
so
Yeah.
awesome, bro.
That's the best answer we've had.
Yeah. So I was always, man, I should have gone to cosmetology school instead of carrying all these
Right.
cameras. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. I love
I'm crying
that.
over here. That's good.
Okay, bro. What is one piece of advice that you can give to filmmakers trying to grow in their craft or their business?
Accountability. Be honest.
Mm.
It's okay to not know. If a director tells you, I want to do this and do that, and you start BSing them about something, most likely that person will go, this guy's just a BS.
Yeah.
Just tell them, I don't know. I'm going to get you the information, and then I'm going to get back to you.
Yeah.
I think to me, that's the most important, because, that builds trust. And then that person is going to trust you. Oh, this guy's legit. He's not going to, because there's so many BSers in this business, and they'll tell you this, they'll tell you that, and they just read it somewhere, saw it on a podcast, and it's unnecessary. It's okay to not know things.
Right.
It's okay. You just say, I don't know, but I'm gonna find out.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I have mad respect for people that do that, and I am the same way. One other thing that I do is, and you experience this, when I'm producing something, I don't micromanage. I let you guys do.
100%.
I let you guys do whatever you do because I respect what you're doing, and I ask you, I want this, I want that, and then you go, okay, I'm gonna do this, and I'll look at it. You show me the monitor, blah blah. I say, yeah, I like it. I don't try to impose. Oh, I've been doing this for so long. No. I respect everybody what they do. Doesn't matter if they're like, they're doing this low budget documentary to doing a $250 million movie. Everybody has a responsibility. If you have that responsibility, you're accountable for it, and we have to move to one goal, and it's this collaboration, every getting to that goal and doing things right.
Yeah, that's good, man. To his point, we didn't even really get to dive into you as a director in the project we're working on, but Willie does not micromanage at all, and it was actually really cool to watch somebody direct and just be like, "I trust you to do your job. I put you here for a reason. Show up and do your job." And it's cool. So
Yeah, and that's one thing that as we collaborated for the last 5-6 months, all I ask is be upfront with me. Always be upfront, be honest, and then we'll get through it. If I tell you to be there, if you call time is at 10, don't show up at 10:30. You know, and because we've had that situation right in the past. Oh, if I ask you, you're gonna shoot this stuff, you're gonna be on your own. Just be creative. Just don't stand on one spot and do. Just give me a bunch of stuff because at the end of the day, we're gonna use it. So that what builds trust. And I think Joey and I, I've built trust with him that I know that if I ask him for something, okay, this is gonna happen. I'll make it happen. Blah blah blah. And it's a good working relationship and a great collaboration.
yeah, that's awesome, man.
I feel that too. I bragged to Joey. We use a lot of different DPs depending on his schedule and commercials and stuff. But I'm like, man, when I got you on set, it's like you read my mind, and you also, I trust you. I'm just like, hey, I want it over here. This is what I want, and then I can walk away, and I know that he's got it handled. So that's the trust aspect that the DP and the director can have. We talked about it on other shows. It's really important.
Yeah.
But we got to have you back for part 2 because I want to unpack the project that y'all are working on, the directing.
Beautiful, yeah.
And
It's a great story.
I'm a big documentary I want to do more directing and documentary, so I got to unpack on part 2 with Willie.
We have to, because then next year I also I'm going to be in Alabama, and I'm doing a project related to Martin Luther King, a documentary about. It's not about him. It's about music and social justice. Plus what we're doing with Dallas Trinity Football Club, Joey and I, and also I have this other project that I love, and it's about the story of JJ Barea, the Mavericks. Guard. They play here for he played in the NBA for 14 years.
Love JJ.
Yeah.
I got a chance to work with him on
you did?
Mavs Media Day a couple of times. So,
Definitely we need to do a part 2.
100%, man. That's awesome. Very last question, and we'll wrap this up. Who is one filmmaker who has inspired you or your work?
I would say my mentor. His name is Marco Surinaga in Puerto Rico. He just opened my mind to all the possibilities of, and again, trusting me. This kid that I don't have any film background in my family, and him just taking me under his wing and seeing my drive and where I want to do. We still work together 30 years later. And he's in Puerto Rico, and every once in a while he'll have a project and, hey, Willie, can you come down? It's, yeah, of course. It's like we were saying, I don't even ask if I'm going to get paid. I just show up, and he's been a great inspiration in my life, personally and on the business side. And I learned so much about cameras and lenses with him that I took all that knowledge with me, and that helped me to in my career in Los Angeles.
Man, that's beautiful, man. Definitely got the people that took you under their wing in the beginning and gave you an opportunity to launch from. Those are ones that you got to stick around with. And
not only that, and as your career, if you have success, you always have to go back and be appreciative of them, and tell them, give them the mad props that they deserve, because it's important. It keeps you humble. It keeps 100%. You and also you pay it forward. Then I've been through my career, been able to also mentor other people, and that they're doing great, and doing well, and I'm glad, because I think that's the best form of a compliment, is knowing that somebody that you train and worked under you, they're doing better than you.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Bro, for those that want to get in touch with you or connect with you, what's the best way for them to chat with Willie Estrada?
Email elgranwilo@gmail.com. That is ELGRANWILO @gmail.com.
And if you want to cop a hat that is as fresh as the one he's wearing right now. We didn't even get to dive
We
into
didn't even get to that.
But my boy out here making hats that are hella fresh.
Yeah, and quickly, we had a strike last year, and everybody was like, I didn't want to be sitting around the house just playing golf. That's my other passion, playing golf. And said, well, my wife, she's an artist, and she does beautiful work. And all those creative juices, being home with her, started like flowing. And I just started, I went, took a course in Denver and to hat shaping and hat making. And I just started.
And bro,
so good.
They're fire, dude. Seriously. Like they got all the just detail. Like you look at the brim of the hat and he's got like the charred, fire marks on it. He's got the ribbons with the feathers. And all of it, man. He's got a beautiful work of art.
Are they online somewhere that you can?
They're on Instagram. It's called Woodrush.
Okay.
All one word. Woodrush_hats. Woodrush hats _hats. So go there, check them out.
Sick.
Check it out.
It's still a hobby. I'm still full on in my career. But in between jobs, it's a fun thing to do.
Yeah, it's super sick, bro.
Yeah.
Well, man, we appreciate you coming on the show, bro. This has been super fun.
Thank you.
Thank you for
having
donating
me.
your time, man. And for those that are listening around, we'll see you next time on the Rough Cut Club. And that's a wrap for today's episode. If you're still here, you're either obsessed with filmmaking or love hearing us talk. And honestly, we're cool with both. So thanks for tuning in and being a part of our Rough Cut community. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow us on our socials and subscribe so you never miss out on future content. And if you have a moment, we'd love for you to leave us a review. It's kind of like giving us an Oscar, but helps us reach even more awesome listeners like yourself. Oh, and remember to join our Patreon for an exclusive backstage pass to our community, discounts on club merch, and even more ways to get involved with the show. Lastly, if you have thoughts, questions, or ideas for future episodes, we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, stay curious and keep creating.